26. This has become a bit of a smash hit for us, to be honest. Last one, I think we had, how many people did we have at the last deck breakdown?
Oh, it was like 94 regos, about 50 on the call.
50 on the call. Just to hear my guest, good friend, Hugh Stephens, break down decks and very specifically talk through, as a VC, how you think about what is on the screen and present it in front of you. When you click that attachment, open it up, what you're thinking about. So welcome, Hugh. Thank you for coming in person.
Thank you for inviting me, Alan, as always.
Great to have you. So Hugh, just quick 30 seconds. What do you get up to? Who are you? Just so in case this is the first time someone's come along to one of these and don't know who you are.
So I come from a founder background, founded B2B SaaS, and then have been investing as a VC, one of the partners, co-founders of Galileo. We just finished investing out of Fund 1, which was a sort of 10 million change fund. So sort of, I guess, proof of concept fund. In the midst of raising Fund 2, that's coming together pretty well. And we're pretty much ready to write the first check out of that. So Fund 1 wrote mostly 250 to 500K checks. Mostly. Companies. The Matter, Andromeda, the company, Tixel, which a lot of you might know, Consumery. And then Fund 2 is writing from 250 to probably up to $1 million, and is aimed to sort of close at 30 to 50 million. So it's a bit of a bigger fund. But the focus is very much super early pre-seed, with no real sort of direct industry mandate. So we've done consumer, deep tech, B2B SaaS,
everything,
you name it, pretty much.
Right. Okay.
And so it's been pretty fun.
Good. Fund 2, similar sort of mandate.
Fund 2, similar mandate.
Got it.
Same thing, just with probably more cash and the ability to have a bit more follow-on capital. We didn't really do a lot of follow-on out of Fund 1 because it was a small fund, mostly focused on the first check-in.
Good. You can't see if you're online, but we've got some people live in front of us, and we were talking a little bit earlier about a range of things. But one thing I was saying was what I love about doing deck breakdowns with you, Hugh, is that you really do bring a sort of a founder operator lens to it. And I really enjoy that because it sort of does give a different view than just someone who looks at spreadsheets and decks all day.
Yeah, I try and avoid the investment banker style VC.
I know.
Early stage you can, to be fair. There's not a lot you can project in early stage VC.
Yeah, cool. So I'm Alan. I'm the GM here at CDH, ex-founder, have built some stuff, worked in fintech for a long time. So have been down a founder road, not doing that again, and have definitely been an operator, which I prefer actually. So there you go. Okay. As it says, let's break down some decks. So again, the concept here is Hugh's going to look at the deck. I'm going to side comment and then also maybe draw out a few different pieces from the deck. But the point here is, again,
I haven't seen them.
Hasn't seen them. Yeah, it's literally just imagine this is like Hugh getting this as cold inbound, double clicks on the PDF, opens it up. This is what he's thinking.
And just upfront, thank you to the founders who submitted them. I know it's a bit of a it can be a bit of a scary thing. But the intent here is the continuous sort of brain dumping. So I will brain dump and I will talk through stuff and it will probably be a bit confusing, but also that is probably a sign of how the narrative all works. So we do the same thing with our founders when they do new decks for, whether it's a pre-seed or seed or an A or whatever. But yeah, so I apologize in advance if it's chaos, but I promise it's trying to be constructive.
No, it's organized chaos, filtered, unfiltered, but it's all good. So literally that's the concept. So let's get into it. So first deck, it's a company called Capacity. Kate and Danny are the founders, and they happen to be Clubhouse members here at CDH. So let's jump in.
Okay.
First page. What do you think?
Okay, so I'm not sure about the app.ai subheading thing. I mean, okay, so front page of the deck should have the what is this trying to do? So just mentioned a lot of words there, a lot of words, quite busy. I'm not much of a designer, so I will give random design comments, but take them with a grain of salt. Yeah. World's first emotional energy intelligence platform. I've seen a handful of these, so I sort of go, world's first, interesting, always hard to pitch there. And, sure, this sort of says to me, okay, we're doing a sort of wellness piece, wellness industry on the app, AI, blah, blah, blah. So, okay, let's go. So problem slide, I assume. So these kind of problem slides, I have an interesting sort of up and down with, because it's sort of doing the piece of, oh yeah, like people are tired. You're like, oh yeah, no shit. Of course people are tired. You sort of get used to the idea of you've got to always have a problem slide, but sometimes when it's a bit too general and it's kind of one of those things of everyone already knows this problem, it's a bit like, like I don't know if it really adds a lot. So nice, maybe handy. Might be better in a presenting context. You often have a read deck and a presenting deck, and they're different. But I don't know if it necessarily adds a lot to the story yet.
So this is like not an uncommon problem, right?
No,
Where
it's like people like healthcare is really big, and you're like,
exactly,
yeah, healthcare is really big.
It's really big, right? So, and same thing I think goes, obviously, what that's talking to is the TAM slide, right?
Yeah.
It's like big TAM. I get it. So how do you think a founder should conceptualize this though? Because having, just like you, written many a deck, it feels like you need to say the obvious.
Yeah.
But how do you have some impact behind that? I think is the question.
Yeah. So my thing with these things is really like in the mental health space, everyone loves to do mental health app. I've seen so many so many bloody mental health app pitches. I probably shouldn't swear on a live stream.
It's okay.
But,
it's R-rated,
it's
whatever.
R-rated, yeah.
That's
Adults
okay.
only, please. But or at least have your parents' permission. If they're over 16, they can't be here, right? Under 16. But like for example, the mental health thing, it's sort of like, okay, great. Well, you can kind of take it as assumed as like mental health is a big problem, right? But what I really want to understand in the problem space is like, what's that specific part of that that you think is important? Like, what is the part of that you're attacking? And even if that is like, hey, and like you always have this thing of the pointy end of the wedge, and then like there's a sort of short term, what's the next 2 years look like? And then there's the 10-year picture. I don't care about the 5-year. I only care about like the 10-year, what's the big vision and what's the like immediate term piece. So maybe it's sort of like boil down the problem into like, this is where we're starting. We know mental health is a big problem, but this is the place that we're starting.
Love that. That's great. That's actually really great actionable advice, because I think this is, again, we'll come to a TAM slide a little later. It is like one of the common ones because, again, it feels like you should say it, but there's probably a productive way to say it. And that's, love that. Cool.
Okay, so solution. Oh no, okay, so this is more problem. 2 problem slides. Probably too many problem slides. I like only 1 problem slide, right? Again, read deck, present deck could be different. So like, this is again a bit of those like, okay, like I get the piece of we've got all these tracking things, and like now we, like we're going to make things more interesting. It's interesting, and this to me is probably what you would say. I appreciate if you were presenting the deck as you go along, but I don't know if necessarily as a read deck slide it necessarily adds a lot. Like this is where I'd be showing again visual design advice. Don't necessarily treat me as a designer of the like. Show me the old and the new maybe, or something like that of like the old is here is your Whoop dashboard and here is the new of the picture of our product or whatever, or like image of our product to try and show the like contrast.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe it's the next slide. Okay, more story. Again, the spacing here but that's me being a comms person. And emotional energy, sure. Again, like we're sort of doing that thing for me of like we're repeating the same thing over and over again and getting deeper and deeper without really adding more. So
which is again sort of not uncommon, right? Where it's like, what do you do? I do X, I do Y, I do Z, and so forth and so on, right? So keep it tight.
Yeah, and again, and this sort of continues that same thing of like we're building the narrative, and I like building the narrative, and I think the narrative is really important to these things, and obviously it's been well thought of. But again, it's sort of like as a read deck, if I was getting this by an email, I'd be by now I'm like, okay, so now I'm like 4 slides through the problems and be like, so
like short, sharp.
I agree with what it's saying, to be fair. But again, it's sort of like, okay, cool, like
short, sharp, entry point that is clear, is nice and captures you. Because the other part to this is this is not what you want someone to be doing, right? You want them to be going, interesting. Hadn't thought of that. Great insight.
And also less words. Yeah. I'm again, comms person principle. Less words, shorter sentences.
Cool.
Okay, so now we're going to the audience, right? So normally you do problem, then solution. So I'm like, it's a bit of a strange sequencing here, right? So you might do audience and then problem, then solution, but normally you go problem, then straight to solution. But this could be, for example, that piece of where we talked earlier about like, okay, cool, we're doing the mental health thing, but like here is the sort of like pointy bit. At the same time, I'm like, this again is sort of like still very general, like, okay, cool, burned out people. Oh, like, I think that this doesn't really say to me who those people really are. The first one maybe a little bit gives you a bit of the narrowness of like, hey, we're trying to like deal with this sort of generational change in culture. But I'm not sure that's necessarily the way that I'd be presenting it. But yeah, we'll see.
Cool.
Okay, so now we're in like a Tammy slide. I mean, I guess it's sort of like this is the kind of thing again of where I always find it hard with like, you see a lot of those decks where it's sort of like people trying to pitch, particularly the classic is the sort of like, we improve wellness for corporate and like the cost of sick days is X dollars. And so therefore, and it's like, but at the same time, like no technology solution or even EAP or whatever has ever actually reduced the fact that people take sick days.
Yep.
And so I think it can be a bit of one of those things of on paper, it looks like a good idea, but you get a bit sick of seeing it because you're kind of like, well, it doesn't really like, so this I'm sort of like, yeah, I don't know if it really like, you're trying to quantify something that is a bit of a no-brainer, but also we know that people have been trying to solve this in many different fashions, technology and not, for eons, and it's not necessarily a totally solvable, like we're not going to reduce our like mental health costs to the economy with an app.
Yeah. And then I think the other thing here is, which maybe the slight confusion of trying to figure out what this is actually saying is the other piece to it, right? Which is, I think you want, and interested to hear what you think about this here, but I think you want real clarity as to what you're trying to get across.
Yeah.
Just facts, figures, for the sake of facts and figures to build the narrative is not necessarily, and again, it feels almost counterintuitive because you feel like you have to build the narrative. But again, it's like where you started is usually where the, especially for health, again, finance, obvious problem. Yes, people get burnt out. It's not great. Now tell me how you're going to solve this and what is the core of this product.
I think, again, one of those principal things that I always say to people, a good thing about when you're building these kind of decks is like, look at the slide and then be like, what is like the one sentence takeaway that I want to get people to take away from the slide, and make sure that's really obvious. And then like get people who haven't actually seen your slides before to go through it and be like, what do you think the one sentence takeaway is? And keep reshaping the slide and the messaging until people kind of get directionally what that one takeaway is. It's going to be like short and really clear.
Yeah, ask your BCG mate.
Correct.
Right. What's the action title?
Then you'll get those burn down graphs. Okay. So what today's solutions look like, again, so now we're sort of in that comparative place. And I sort of go, okay, like as a VC, I know these things, like, okay, cool, we've got variables, got like this one, I'm like, yeah, okay, they exist. And I think there's a little bit here of, this isn't really, to me at least, presenting how you're going to be different. This is still just sort of saying what's wrong with the current solution. So we feel like we're still in problem. We're a long way through.
Yeah.
Solution, here we go. Okay, so solution and then big paragraph, very hard, right? And also like the thing on the left, I'm like, give me like a product mock-up or something like that to be able to work it out. Energy intelligence platform, I get that you're trying to establish this as a category, which is an interesting thing, and I like that. But like kind of define to me really what that means. Like captures how you feel, like so does a journal, so does everything else. Like layers of meaningful context. Okay, so you're trying to do the whole thing of like give my Whoop knowledge of whether I have had a bad day at work. I don't know.
Yep.
I think the piece here is like, talk to me about what, in the solution space for things like this, talk to me about the experience of the end user.
Yeah.
Right? And it's sort of like, the outcome here to me is still a bit like, it's like the outcome here, I'm assuming here, right? So I'm interpreting. The outcome here is the piece of like, Jane gets told, put down the computer and go for a walk.
Yeah.
At 2 p.m. when she's had a long series of meetings.
Yeah.
I don't know what it might be. But
But like, it's a really good point, right? Which is intrinsically the solution is tied to the product.
Yeah.
Right. So give me a sense of what it is that the, end user is going to experience tied to the solution is a neat way to sort of bypass this like.
This still feels a bit like sort of alphabet soup keyword, like.
Because the solution doesn't sit by itself in a vortex, right? It's.
Now understand how your product is thinking.
Correct.
And how you're thinking about the customer, right?
Yeah.
Okay, what you get practically. Oh, here we go. Okay, so no energy score. I'm like, oh, yeah, maybe. Okay, like lots of things have energy score. Spot burnout early. Yeah, maybe. Like I think about this and I go like, my dad talks about his bloody energy battery from his Garmin watch continuously. So I kind of get that piece, but then at the same time, like, seeing people do it, you're kind of like, oh my God. See what drains and fills your cup. Yeah. I mean, this is one of those things I'm like, yeah, it kind of makes sense, but I wonder how much. I'm curious, I guess. I'm curious, like how you're going to actually do this in a practical way. Because like, it's no surprise to me that when I'm in Zoom meetings for 9 hours a day, which is most of my Wednesdays, my cup is drained.
Yep.
I don't need an app to tell me that it's because I've been in Zoom all day.
Yep.
Okay, so a 2x2. We love a 2x2. Okay, so
do we love a 2x2?
Well,
we've talked about this before.
Now the challenge here, of course, is strange 2x2 here, because our 2x2 is our winning solution is in the bottom left. Now, usually we put ourselves in the top right.
Yeah,
exactly. You know, like, so interesting and different. At least actually go, oh, this is weird. These things I think are often more helpful. Like, again, you're still comparing broad categories here. And what I really want to understand is like how you see yourself as different. And like one of those comparison tables is probably actually a more useful thing here than a 2x2 to really understand how you're seeing them different. But, you know, and then this right piece of the culture piece, this is actually where I think it's more interesting of trying to unpack of like, what is it that you've seen in that like ethnographic, cultural, like insight into the consumer and how the consumer thinks about things and what's changing about the new generation, because we all agree the new generation is crazy. What's changing about them that you've observed that you think is going to unlock this market? Because that's the part that I think is more interesting to attack.
Totally.
This says to me like you've got some thoughts on that, but it's like unpack that for me.
Yeah, and it's probably fair to say you're looking at as well the positioning around how they think about the market and where they sit amongst the other competitors, or in this case,
but this is all just
right?
still a bit like this, right? Yeah. They're kind of saying the same thing in a sense. If that makes sense.
Great point.
Okay, how it works. Personalizing such. Sure. Again, this is a bit of word cloud stuff in the paragraph. Personalized energy blueprint. Like, I don't mind it. Like, again, talk to me about like where's these kind of thing. I'm like, okay, cool. Like, again, you're sort of telling me the same thing of what you said the product does, but like, talk to me about how you get like, this is a consumer app, right? So like, how do you get to the aha moment? What is the aha moment? Like, how does it work in the sense of like, we take your Apple data and your calendar sync, and then we overlap the two to give you a thing in the first 5 minutes that tells you X. Like, give me that little piece of like, what's changed, what's different, because we all know that in these consumer apps, it's really easy to build this horribly complicated consumer app, but no one uses it. Like, you've got to have that really early, successful, you know, piece. It's like the same as the sleep tracking apps. The reason they work is you go to sleep and you wake up and you get your first sleep score. And it's usually horribly wrong because it hasn't like worked out what your baseline resting heart rate and everything else is. But like, you wake up in the morning like, oh, 55%. Was that a good thing or a bad thing? And that's key with those consumer things. So this hasn't really told me that piece of that.
And one thing I've just, it's pretty clear. Like, all through this deck, I think one thing you've continuously come back to is, what is the product? Talk me through the product, right? And what is the customer experience? And let me get a sense of the outcomes you're generating. And what is that? You've called it sort of like the moment. Yeah,
like it feels like this is the kind of thing of like someone's gone, this is what I want to do in life. And then they've put a deck together and they haven't really thought about then how it, like, you know, they've thought about the how in the sense of the principles element, but not the like practical piece of like, I mean, we've got to build a product here somewhere. Right? So like this is feels like a bit like that sort of research projecty kind of level, lots of thinking, but like not yet the piece of like, what does this mean for the end user?
And you tend to see this, right? My experience.
When you're early on.
Early on. But I also think just as a point, just a reflection point for a founder is great founders tend to talk about product a lot. Right? They're quite rooted in the product from what is the problem? How are we solving it? What matters to the customer? It's very rooted in that kind of discussion, and you can feel it in the deck as well. It's just interesting hearing you talk a lot about that as we go through it. And to be fair, to Kate and Danny, they are relatively early.
Super early makes it hot, right? And it's very different when there's a product thing. So this is a TAM slide. Oh, damn, we love a TAM slide.
Go.
Love to argue about a TAM slide. So
indeed.
like, I think these things are always really hard because it's like, I'm yet to see a TAM slide that says our addressable market is really small and we're never going to make it. Like, I haven't yet seen one of those, and I look forward to one day. It's interesting because, I mean, even you know, like looking at a founder that we've sort of been tracking over a number of years, it's like the sort of person that's very passionate about a particular space. The space is a shit space, right? It's a really crap space, and it's kind of like it's a derivative on a pretty crap industry. And it's funny because every time you talk to him, he'll tell you about how the market's really big and it's growing and blah blah and everything, and you're like, but it's not. It is obviously not, because I've been talking to you for 5 or 6 years, and I said to you 3 or 4 years ago, and we didn't invest. This market is too small. Like, I love the idea, love you as a founder, but the market just isn't going to adopt this in the way it is, because it's like small business, idiot customer kind of thing. And sometimes it's really hard for the founders to get that. So like these things, I'm kind of like, you can always invent a big market, but
And then it comes back to this fundamental question, right? Which is how important is the market? Because you're an early stage investor. How do you conceptualize the market? How important is the market versus the founder? Because that was a really good example of that, right? That logic that you're sort of, because
great founder, bad market can be really hard.
Yeah.
Sometimes it works, to be fair. But
yeah, because most of the time, the consensus early stage view, if you just like scroll through Twitter, is always back the founder. Great founders, figure it out, right? But this is a good like stop point to sort of test that as well for you, right? When you're thinking about, well, what market are we actually looking at? And the numbers, to be honest, I assume this is your view because it's my view. I don't give a shit about the numbers. Yeah. It's just more conceptually, what is this that you're looking at? Yeah.
So the thing that I'm learning from this and the thing that I take out of this is I go, I'm not sure this is really clear on what that wedge part of the market is, right? Because if I go tech engaged 20 to 45s, oh my God, if you've talked to a 45-year-old about how they use tech compared to a 20-year-old, it's bizarre, right? And so I sort of go, this is not a very homogenous market, particularly in the early days, because the apps that you see a 20-year-old use and the ways that a 20-year-old will approach technology and a 45-year-old are so far apart, it's not funny. Like you almost may as well be asking like your grandmother to use a modern television, which is almost impossible. Yeah. Even I can barely use a modern television.
To be fair, yeah.
Need the Netflix button on your remote. B2C evangelist target. Okay, so like evangelist audience, great. This is just, but this one to me is like, okay, cool. So you've discovered the piece of like the adoption curve of technology. Okay. The ARR ceiling potential at 27.9 million at full retention. I go, nice Excel work, but this one doesn't really add a lot to me. I like a go-to-market slide, but talk to me about how you're going to identify those people that are the really early people in the early part of the curve. How are you going to actually identify and find them? How do you know them? Community of them already, whatever it is. Like I get the piece of as we go along the graph, there are more people and we start really small in a really early market. But that's where I keep going to this piece of like, what's the pointy end of the wedge? Who are the really early customers? They're going to be the first customers of this product to then look at how we're going to expand. I like the bottom with the like actual assumptions as well. I do like that.
We'll see if there's sort of a GTM marketing one, but I'll come back to this question actually for you in a sec. Let's see.
And here you go. And this is the like when we get to the middle of the curve, the bell curve, right? Yeah. And so great. So there's lots of people in the audience, and it gets big.
Okay, let's see if we get there. B2B potential.
And then I go to the B2B piece of hey, we can get this. Inevitably, I assume someone's going to say, health insurers will pay for this and big employers will pay for this to be able to reduce, like this is every single mental health pitch that you see. Okay, so now we're sort of talking about the broader well-being tech market. So this part to me now, I'm like, again, we're sort of back in this problem customer space, which doesn't really add it to me because like I know that Apple Watches exist and all, like you've got to remember that as a VC, a lot of our job is to know a little bit about all the spaces. And so like, give me footnotes or give me appendix slides or whatever if I need more context. Like when we were doing DD on a new magnetic material for initially electric aircraft engines, now automotive. I know nothing about magnetic materials in stator motors, right? Or I know bits and pieces, but I'm far from being a material scientist. And so that's the kind of thing of where, give me appendixes, give me bits to read, all that stuff. But like consumer app well-being, I'm like,
I know the space well enough. Yeah, got it.
I know at least enough to be dangerous. Good ask slide. Okay, ask slide. So ask slide, I like the fact we're saying we're looking for 50K. So I'm like, super early. Great. Okay, that makes sense. This feels like a really early deck. If this said 5 million, I'd be like, ooh, this is a weird deck. So really great. I like the fact it's got a little like your funding gets us to here. I really like that. Like that's a well designed and conceptual piece of showing to me this is how you've thought about the use of funds and this is where you've thought about you're going to get to. What worries me about this is it's like the market validation piece. I'm like, this is one of those like talk to your mates, talk to your kids. Isn't this like, and the product prototyping piece, I'm always like, like these days, how much funding does one really need to prototype a product? Like get on your Lovable, get on your whatever it is and like smash something together. Doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be the thing you launch to production. Yeah. But it could be the thing that you sort of go, okay, like I've kind of got the mental mind. Now you don't really go to wireframes, right? You can kind of go to high fidelity as a wireframe, as a concept, fairly easily with not totally crap design, thanks to the gods of AI, NVIDIA. And so I sort of, this one I sort of go, yeah, okay, interesting. And And I get that, but like 50K feels like just it's like a drip of money.
Yeah. So there's probably two things that I'll okay. Let's just let's
finish this slide.
And then we can talk about it. Go for it.
Okay, so moat. I actually like the moat slide is an interesting one here for me, right? Because it's like this is again that piece of we're trying to integrate data, we're trying to lay data together, and so presumably then we want to be able to have some degree of moat. And so I like this a little bit, but like talk to me about what that like emotional energy data layer, like, ooh, like is this like a daily survey thing? Like I have one of those things that sends me a push notification at 9 o'clock every day that I ignore continuously. But like some of this stuff, like for me is more the piece of like, what is it you're like, number 2 is probably the more interesting piece of like, how are you building this thing that's going to somehow work out how to normalize what is presumably a bajillion data inputs into something that is useful for the customer? Because that's kind of the hard AI problem of the day is like, we can't sort of context feed everything into ChatGPT and assume we'll be able to work out what's relevant. Trust me, it can't. I keep trying. But like, talk about how you're thinking about that piece to be able to do it. But the other bits of it, I'm kind of like, we're still sort of talking in generalist bits about the product and how we're solving it. It's not really like giving me a concrete thing.
Cool.
Team slide? Team slide?
Question?
Yep.
Start or end? What do you prefer?
Oh, either or. I don't really mind.
Don't have a strong
I don't have a strong view.
Okay.
As long as it's somewhere, and as long as it doesn't have all of the like 5 million advisors on the side as well. But like, good. Like what I want to see from this though, that doesn't say to me here immediately, right, is like who's the operator and who's the builder.
Got it.
And I think that's where slides like this make me a little bit like I like that they're experienced and have knowledge and things, but like it makes me a bit worried that the next thing I'm going to find out is that their solution here is they're going to hire an app agency to build the app.
Got it.
Okay, so this one is less useful to me as a VC. So this is again a bit of that like point of what I call a point of religion in the sense of not right or wrong answer. As a VC, I'm a generalist VC. Ultimately, I'm a finance bro. Like my LPs measure me based on how much money I return to them. Right? They don't give a crap about whether we save the world along the way. I'm not an impact fund. My mandate is an impact fund. I'd like it'd be nice to do nice things, and I'm not exactly investing in drones to go and I don't know bomb some people in a different country. Hopefully, but like it's at the same light. Like the sort of the impacty piece is irrelevant to me as a VC. Angels, for example, very different.
Sure.
And like we have a number of investors, and I know a number of angels that have particularly strong impact lenses. But remember that like your job when you're asking someone for investment is it's a financial investment. And so, yes, it's nice to show the change to the world. And I think investing in anything in health is always going to have that nice bubbly feeling of if it works, then we're going to do nice things to the world. But I don't really know if it really is going to make a decision. Like it's not going to make someone invest in a way that they wouldn't otherwise.
Got it. Cool. I think we're at the end.
Yeah.
Usually we'd have the founders. Unfortunately, they can't join us.
That's right.
But usually we'll have the founders sort of maybe ask a question or two. I was going to ask you about marketing and GTM slide because we sort of hovered in and around that, right? Conceptually, what would you like to see in that kind of marketing, go-to-market? Because there was, sorry, to be fair, there was that sort of slide. Which was early, evangelists. Then we're going to move up the scale and, larger customers in substance. The equivalent of that sometimes in consumer is social media marketing, like SEO, right? All this kind of stuff. How should a founder conceptualize that set of slides? Because they're actually quite challenging to sort of articulate sometimes.
Yeah. So for me, it's like, what is it like? Use the GTM thing for me in these really early stage things. It's like, show me what you know about the customer. Or that, again, that pointy end of the wedge, that early customer audience. Show me what you know about them and how you're going to get to them, right? And that might be, like we have joined all the Facebook groups or we've built a Facebook group or blah, blah. Like, don't sort of be like, we're going to spend half our money on social media. Did you know? Blah, blah, blah. Like, but like, talk to me about like what you've learned. Again, it's that when with really early stage founders, the things we want to really think about is, how well do they really like understand and are they thinking about the customer? How much is that like customer centricity? What are they thinking that's different to what everyone else is thinking about that customer audience? And then secondly, that execution risk piece of like, can they build and execute? Can they reach that customer?
Got it.
is kind of the two most important parts, because like I can I could ask ChatGPT to like. ChatGPT will write me a great model about how a personal trainer marketplace will change the world.
Yep.
And 20 years has told us personal trainer marketplaces do not work.
Yep. No.
Pretty much universally.
Yeah, it's really great.
I hope the next one isn't a personal trainer marketplace.
Personal trainer. No. I love that, right? Which is the insight. Like, give me the insight.
I want to send the insight. What is the unique insight you have?
What is your, like, to use a totally abused phrase now, which is like, what's your earned secret? Like, what is that thing that you've seen that other people haven't yet, right? Love that.
And about the customer, like, this is also one of those things of like older, not, I don't know their age, but older audience. But if they were saying they want to target 20-25s, help me understand how you really understand a 20 to 25-year-old. Because that can also be another really sort of jarring thing sometimes of when you talk to some people and they're trying to target a youth audience, because they know a youth audience is early adopters or whatever it is, and you're like, but do you really know that customer? Yeah. And it's easy to sort of know that customer when you are that customer. You don't have to be, but it's easy to know when you are that customer. But it's quite hard to know that customer if you're very in a different world to them. Yeah,
I'll come back to that one because I think the reverse is also interesting.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah,
the same way of like, I don't believe that like to do a fintech you need to be a bank executive.
Yeah,
if anything, it's probably a negative sign.
Yeah,
so it does cut both ways.
Right. Okay. Ian and Declan actually in the room, so we can actually throw to some questions after we go through their deck. Okay, Talenti, let's go.
Talenti, the future of hiring begins here. Now, I look at this and with the utmost respect, I go, oh, more HR tech. Australia does love HR tech, to be fair, but I personally am very tired of it because you see a lot of it. There is a lot of it, and there are interesting spaces, and one of the reasons there's a lot of it is there's a lot of money spent through it. So like I can see the commercial side, but the part of me, this doesn't say to me that the building the world's first impression makes it go, oh, okay, it's a bit interesting, but this doesn't quite say to me what you're trying to do.
Okay.
I like the first slide to sort of be like, tell me obviously what this is. And this says HR tech, sure, hiring, but like, and first impression gives me a little bit, but more. Okay, replace resume, better hire. Okay, so first thing I do when I read that piece, I'm like, okay, so this is another one of those, right? And we've had a lot of those, like, we do AI interviewing, we do the video snippets rather than the responses in the survey. Like, there's been lots of those things. Read deck with paragraphs. Again, it's a bit of a point of religion. I prefer a bullet point type approach, but that's again a bit of a thing. So let me have a quick read of this. Yeah, wrong hire. Everything else. As an operator, I go, yeah, everyone still has wrong hires. And you can do wrong hires no matter how well you hire. Okay, so then this bit on the right here is kind of the key part of like, replace this by fixing resumes with a clear picture of skills, intent, and fit. And all I can think here is I really hope this isn't one of those things that generates those pie charts of like, I have 6 out of 10 Microsoft Word skills, because I really hate those CVs. I blame Canva for them.
Okay, let's see where we go.
Let's see.
Let's see where we go.
Okay, so again, a lot of words, which a bit of point of religion. Hiring is built for speed, not good decisions. I mean, a bit of both. Yeah, okay. Most hiring starts with resume, sure. Some hiring starts with the resume, I would say. Like, a lot of people still do things like capability testing and MBTIs and things like that on their way through as part of the hiring process. So if you ever get hired, look for a job at like Coles or whatever. They actually do a surprising amount of stuff. So I go, maybe. So yeah, this is an interesting. So the part that doesn't really like, I think the way I don't really know what the problem is yet, right? But the way I'd put this kind of problem of like, it's the same as I say as a VC, is like, part of our job as a VC, which is actually a really hard job, is to work out the difference between a really bad company pitched well and a really great company pitched poorly. And I think the hiring problem is kind of the same problem of like, what do you do with the person that is actually a really great hire, but their CV or cover letter or whatever is terrible, versus the people who are a terrible hire, but the CV and cover letter look really good. And I'm like, that's that kind of more like way to draw out that problem space, I think, than just being like, the resume is broken. It's sort of like, draw out that problem of being like, great people can look bad and bad people can look great. We try and solve that problem and that interplay. Yeah. I don't know if that's actually the solution. Why hiring takes weeks? Okay, I love hiring. I hate hiring passionately. Job ad, Yeah, okay. Like again, I sort of go, this is sort of telling me something that everyone already knows. Like this is the hiring process. So I don't know if I need a whole slide to talk about the hiring process of what the traditional hiring process is.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, solution. Here we go. Hiring marketplace. Okay. Candidate profiles, intelligence screening interviews. Yeah, I mean, like, there's been a lot of these, and so this makes me go, okay. Like, there having been a lot of these is a good and a bad sign. It's a good sign in that the problem exists, right?
There's
like,
a
you need to
market.
tell me that the problem exists.
Yep.
The bad sign is it's sort of like no one's really yet unlocked it. So the part that I'm really hoping the rest of the deck is going to teach me is like, what is it that's unlocked this? Like, is this like the AI revolution has unlocked this, or is this what? Like, what is it? But like blind candidate profiles, that's like a really old thing, you know. Like, it's been done by a bajillion. One of the ATSs. All in all, real-time intent signals, interesting. Sure, yeah, okay. Skills first on display, yeah. Screening interviews again, like individually, all of these things, I'm like, they've already kind of all been done. So I'm curious to see how you think the solution ties them together.
Yep. Okay.
Okay, so okay, so we're kind of doing a push piece, I think. Like,
yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah, this is kind of a push piece. Like, what I'm sort of thinking now is I'm kind of like, oh, this kind of starts to feel a bit like Upworky.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, it's a bit, and I don't know how I'm curious to see, I guess, on like what sort of roles they see being appropriate or like suitable for this. Because it does feel a bit like Upworky in that sense of like, how do we deal with it?
Sorry, I'm just going back because I think one thing one thing I personally like to see when I see a deck that's trying to attack a current market that has been, let's say, generally, I think it's fair to acknowledge this market is poorly served in many different ways, whether it's legacy systems or newfangled things that are coming out on a daily basis that are, in substance, AI from something else redeployed into HR tech, right? What I was just trying to stitch together was whether that narrative was there, right?
Yeah.
And so,
and this to me is they're like, what's changed? Like, what's new? What have you unlocked?
Yeah.
Like, what's
Why
again,
now?
like, where's that key insight?
Yeah. I was just
because the key insight of like hiring is annoying. Like, everyone knows hiring's annoying, right?
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Okay. So, and this is again, now we're just saying hiring is annoying. Is what I'm assuming this is about to say. Like, I agree. And again, some of this can be a bit more drawn out. And again, show me the like customer insight piece of like, okay, so like, yeah, the Gen Z rejects the traditional job hunting. They reject that right up until they need a job, and then they do the traditional job hunting. Like, you know, that's kind of the unfortunate reality of it. Skills-based hiring, again, it's not new. Like, you know, like, and AI DEI pressures, that's going to be an interesting political point. You know, when I look at that and I go, America, that'll be an interesting story. So like some of that is like an interesting piece. But again, it sort of doesn't quite, it doesn't quite, this still hasn't really helped me understand how you see this problem as different. Because the why now here is I'm like, you could put any HR systems logo in the corner of this slide. Again, one of those like principle things of like, take a slide, change your logo to a competitor's logo. Would the slide still make sense? It's probably a bad slide.
Yeah.
So it should really help me understand why you are different. Okay, so 60 employers surveyed want a platform like this. I really hate surveys. Surveys are hard in this sort of thing of like early on, I think the more sort of qualitative, like I want to more understand the piece of like, we spoke to these 5 people. Here are the things that the 5 people said is almost more useful to me than the 100%. Employers want this. Because of course, employers want to get really good people in quickly, cheaply. Like, I'm like, cool, you could ask walk to any employer up and down Cremorne here, and you'll find that they would say, yeah, if I could get a really good person within 24 hours for nothing, I would like that.
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah, no shit. So, you know, grads surveyed preferred over job boards. I'm like, grads don't get a choice. Remember, the power in this dynamic is not the grad. The power is the employer, because the grad wants the job, not the employer. So I'm like, cool, they're going to want something that's easier for them to apply to jobs. But like, the employer is the one.
It's sort of this, right? This is the line here that I want to know more about. No?
Yeah. And that's, I agree. And I think it's part of it for me goes, universities have piloted so many of these fucking tools.
True. Yeah.
And so what is it the universities are saying? This one is particularly different.
Yeah. Well, this comes back, sorry, where I was going to tie that to was to say, that's the point, right?
Yeah.
That's what I want to know about, which is not the survey, it's why, and why are they so engaged? What made them want to be involved in this pilot?
Yeah.
What are they seeing is the value in it, right?
The other thing for me is this piece of, remember how we talked about the sharp edge of the wedge? Okay, so it's now quite late in the piece of where I'm interpreting the piece of, presumably here we're talking about legal consulting, like accounting type junior associate roles.
Yep. Probably.
And we're placing into internship programs at KPMG and Deloitte and all that sort of stuff, right? I'm assuming that, right? But like that probably, like I want to know that either earlier or make it really obvious, because junior associate could mean all kinds of things.
Yeah.
We're not talking about people getting jobs in cafes, right? Business model. This one I go, yeah, okay. Like, I don't mind a business model slide. It helps to understand that piece of how you're thinking about it. This just to me says, yeah, good. You've worked out the value piece is like placement. And again, like I would more wonder that piece of how does a KPMG interpret their grad hiring program and their CAC for that.
Yep.
If that's the customer.
Yeah.
Because I imagine that they're not going to say they're going to get rid of, sending people to go to the, career days or whatever. But otherwise, yeah, I like that. The future layers piece, I'm like, yeah, sure. Like, we'll see how that goes. Okay. So TAM slide. This is a very busy TAM slide that is hard to read, right? And this is where it's sort of like the circle-y thing is often much easier. Because it's kind of hard to read it with the titles and the heading and then the title, the sections. So this to me, this is hard. This is hard to work out exactly what you're saying beyond saying your 30-month goal is 7 million in revenue. I'm like, okay, that's okay. That's 2.5 years. But like 2,000 placements in 2.5 years, I could probably see that. 3.5 grand to hire, maybe. I don't know. I'd really like. I'd stop and redo this slide probably and like think again about how we're describing that piece of what is the what these things really shouldn't be telling me, from my view at least. I should say, is don't tell me about where you think the market is in 10 years, because the reality is in 10 years. We may have no more KPMG junior accounting associates. Yeah, I'm sure that there'll be some, right? But like we may go from a yearly grad intake of 600 to a yearly grad intake of 20, for all we know. So talk to me more about like how do you see that? Like break down this 30-month goal piece. For me, is actually probably more important than looking at where does it look like in 10 years? Because I get the piece of if we can place a shitload of people and lots of jobs and everything else, in 10 years, we'll work out a way to be able to make money.
Yeah. And I think there's probably another more meta point around the slides as a general proposition, nothing to do, prompted by this slide, which is sort of clarity as to what you're trying to say on the slide, right? If it is that we're going to take a slice of a market, show me what that market looks like and what does that slice look like, right? In a very clear, deliberate way. This feels a little like I want to put a few things in here and show big outcome, right?
Yeah, and it feels a bit wishy-washy. Like, again, like I look at the SOM here line and it's like junior entry and associate roles in Sydney and Melbourne. I'm like, those survey data numbers, like that could also mean like junior plumbing role, right? Like I really want to like that like what's that pointy end of the wedge piece of me is like, tell me what the grad consulting jobs, legal jobs, blah, blah, give me the total of them. And give me that piece of like, this is the like really pointy end.
It's even easier. Sorry, it's probably even more useful just to say for KPMG, EY, PwC.
For these four, here is their yearly grad intake. And there's lots of others. They're just the big.
Probably turns out they're 80% of the market anyway, right? Correct. And so to me, that's probably more.
And you could do them, and then you could do the big law firms. And you could do the big management consulting firms. There you go, done.
Which is sort of like, again, it's sort of a cheat code, right? Which is identify the 80% with these kinds of insights, is give me the 80%. And then I can either the 20% doesn't matter, or I can sort of mentally extrapolate that out. And that's sort of a good hack for trying to orientate someone around a market, especially again, just this is sort of a human element to it, which is if you can put some brands against something where there are brands and you can sort of put numbers into
and
that.
show me that you've ideally spoken to the people
Even
in
better.
them to understand
better.
their problem space and world.
Yeah.
Because like I look at something like this and like, so to give a bit of a mental model, for example, I've got a friend who's just about to start as I think KPMG management consulting grad, Echo's business grad, right? And he was looking for a job, part-time job, final year uni, whatever, found a job as a business analyst at a waste management company.
Okay.
Now, would they pay $3,500 to hire someone? Absolutely not.
Yeah, no way. Yeah.
They'll pay to put an ad on Seek, and that's about it.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, cool, they would never be this type of customer probably.
Yeah. And that's just
really
like,
care.
and you take that mental shortcut.
It's a segmentation thing, right?
Correct.
But I sort of look at people and I'm like, working that piece out.
Cool.
Thanks, Des. Okay, so hiring tech is shallow. Yeah, again, I like this is again an interesting way of how you think about it. I'm not sure this visually and everything else really presents it in a way that makes it really easy to read quickly. I kind of like the principle of it, of like the ladder and where we sit in the ladder. It's like the sort of the food pyramid kind of approach. But I'm not sure about the design of the slide because it feels a bit busy and comparable, and it kind of confuses pieces of who our competitors are, who our competitors aren't, and things like that. That doesn't quite feel clear.
Yep.
Okay, so this is presumably the moat slide. Again, very busy slide, lots of words. You'll see I don't like having lots of words, but that's also just because it's hard to read lots of words. But I hate video though, so don't send me a video. But this one I go, yeah, like cool. We've got, native interviews and things like that. Like we've kind of got some of those pieces. I think this one on the right is maybe the thing that to me is a bit more interesting. Like I think for a larger employer, I can see the value of them being able to work out the piece of which of our grads from A to C work out the best. I can see that value, but like that hasn't really felt like the rest of it has really rolled through.
Yep. And how do you feel? So there's two things that I tend to see in moat slides, and they sort of break out into sort of compounding advantage by lots of stuff in our product. And then the other one is sort of the classic one, which is we're going to get all the data. Right. How do you think about, let's just use those two because there are a few other ones that I tend to see, but they're sort of like the dominant ones, i.e. we're going to go product one, product two, compiled, Salesforce type, choose your B2B product that has multiple product lines, compound it together, big thing. We've got lots of stuff, right? That's our advantage. Or the data one. How do you sort of think about, let's just use those two as examples.
Yeah, I think that for me, it's like the moat part is there's never a wrong answer because we never really know what the moat's going to look like long term, right? And I agree with you that you sort of go either way. I think for me that the part that is often feels disjointed sometimes, and again, a bit of this for me, and maybe this is because I'm projecting the piece of I see this one on the right of the compounding learning loop as probably being the best, like, it's the one that the customer who has lots of money, the KPMG type customer, it's the one that they care about, right? Unis care about placement, sure, right? But unis care about just putting bums in seats. KPMG cares about whether or not they're any good. And so the part for me is like that feels disjointed with the way we've talked about the product so far. So far, I've just talked to the product as like helping you hire. We haven't really talked about the piece of working out how that helping you hire then relates into performance on the role, which is ultimately then means you're going to need to have some degree of knowledge of like a culture amp style, but like a piece of, is this person actually good or not? Okay, built by operators, team slide, love a team slide. Whether you have advisors on team slides is again a bit of a point of religion. I hate advisors generally, but that's a personal view. Mostly because I'm like, your mate's an advisor, sweet. What this doesn't tell me is again. So give me a bit of the like. We've got builder. We've got the who's the builder and who's the other person, right? So we've got that piece, which I think is really good. I think it feels a bit busy, and it doesn't really. It doesn't help me as much about really understanding the relationship you have to the problem as much.
Got it.
I think is what really this hasn't quite felt to me. It's good in that it shows me, hey, like we've got some experience, we've built stuff before, like, we're not new to like running a business and seeing what that means. And you're obviously like, presumably smart people. But it doesn't quite give me that element of like, why are you connected to this problem?
Okay.
Okay, GTM. Okay, so this could be the piece of the like explaining me how it goes, right? So we're going to scale into SaaS. Cool. Okay, I get that piece of we're going to sell the thing people are already buying.
Yep.
Great. Deepen. Okay, so the second one says to me, okay, we're going to go into the uni side. And I'm like, unis are really hard customers. Ed tech solutions, very hard. And that can be a good thing and a bad thing. Graduate profiles, yeah, okay, maybe. And then phase 3 is the release platform to orgs. And I go, like, is this really the right sequencing? Because the uni, yes, cares about placement, but then in which case we're really just caring about the uni getting bums on seats.
Yep.
But I'm like, the uni getting bums on seats, the employers quickly don't really care about that.
Yep.
So I don't hate it, but I'm not sure. I would quiz the founder on a call about that, how they're thinking about that sequence. North Star, this is hopefully the the 10-year picture. Most intelligent first impression. Yeah, like this is one of those things of like, it's a kind of religious view of like, it's kind of like saying like, will there still be software engineers in 10 years?
Got it.
And I'm like, yes. Will there still be resumes and CVs or some like very simple way to be able to present what it is you've done in life in 10 years? Yes. Is it going to be on a unique platform? Probably not.
No.
Like unless you're going to build LinkedIn from first principles, which would be not necessarily a bad startup, but a hard startup. This one I'm sort of going, like you haven't sold me on the piece of why. I know why resumes are bad and limiting.
Yep.
And they've been bad and limiting for 100 years.
Yep.
But we still use resumes. And I don't know if this is,
this is the solution.
Yeah.
Got it.
The Northern Star for me, and like a better Northern Star, and this is purely my perspective, to be clear, a better Northern Star for me is that piece of we can work out from the second year of someone's 3-year degree exactly which organization they're going to perform best at 3 years into their work.
Yep.
And as a result, KPMG will pay me 50 grand and, Goldman will pay me probably 400 grand for one person. Like that kind of thing is much more the piece of where if I think about, and this is where as a VC, you're often projecting your product vision onto someone else's, which is a bad thing to do.
I was just about to say, well, that's maybe not the same product though, right?
Correct, and right. And that can be where it gets confusing, right? Because like, this is where I go, this is how I would be shaping this problem, but I'm not that close to the problem, right?
Yeah. Dangers of being an operator.
The dangers of being an operator, correct. But that's where for me, it's that piece of like, I can see the value in there being really strong. I can see the value in just being the way unis get bums on seats in jobs. The value there to me is really low because the unis do change these products all the time.
Got it. Cool. All right.
And there's no ask slide. Final comment, no ask.
No asks. Cool. So we do have the founders. So
yes,
it's obligatory sort of into it is like we have to ask the founders if they have any questions.
Yeah. Well, that's not obligatory. You're welcome to ask questions.
No, by all means. Yeah, go for it.
Yes.
Well, I just want to caveat what you just saw. Obviously, there's no
Financial projections are a waste of time, just to be clear.
This is so maybe a caveat. I had to go into a little bit more helpful. But I mean, all the feedback is like useful, and what I found is a lot of potential investors or VCs have their own subjective view as well.
Because we've seen a lot of HR tech, right? The spaces where we've seen a lot will have strong views on it because we've seen a lot of it. So we kind of already have the house view. It's very different to the things where you're like, and sometimes we'll talk to a founder and you're like, I actually have no idea how we think about this problem. And you sort of actually then need to have a whole lot of conversation with your partners internally of being like, how do we think about this issue? Whereas this is one of those things of where each VC will probably already have a house view on what is good and what is bad in HR tech because we've already seen a lot of it. Or a lot of VCs will have scars from having invested in it and it's blown up or anything else. Sorry, I interrupted your question.
The feedback's kind of like what I was just sort of like seeking. So there's some good feedback that's provided. Like on a lot of slides and on the decks, and yeah, I mean, like, that's kind of like my goal and take one. You did say you would whiz me something on a phone call, so I don't know if you were just putting that out there.
No, like, but this is the piece of like, so what I guess the role of these decks is like the two things you kind of want to be thinking about is as a VC when you're reading these decks is one, is this like an interesting enough thing that I should jump on a call with the founder?
Yep.
Right. And usually it's like jump on a call. If it's a bigger firm, they'll send you an associate. For us, it's only really partners at the firm, so it's only one. It's a partner. But out of that, usually it's the piece of kind of like I'll go, oh yeah, okay, this deck isn't crap. we'll talk, or like this business is directionally interesting for us. It fits into mandate, whatever. And then we'll have a quick conversation for us as a team. We have like essentially two meetings a week. We go through all the startups we're looking at and things. The other rest of the team will have a flick through the deck.
Mhm.
We'll put together the bits of, here are the questions of the interesting things we think are worth exploring a bit more.
Mhm.
And then that's kind of what I'll try and focus on the call, rather than make you pitch me the deck on the call, because it's like, I've already read the deck. Like, don't pitch me the deck again.
Great point, right? That's a really great insight, which is
The key point of a read deck is to get me to the first call.
Yeah.
And that's where like an ask slide and things can be helpful, because sometimes I'll be going through a deck and be like, oh, this is actually really interesting. And you get to the ask slide and they'll be like, we're seeking 25 million
Yeah.
at a 6 billion valuation. You're like, this is, okay, I thought you were a really pre-seed company, but
Yeah.
clearly you are not. Or if not, you're just either way, you're massively outside of my mandate.
Yeah.
So sometimes those things help. In the same way of like that previous company, I'm like, we're not a fund that can
Mhm.
write 50K checks. Categorically, we can't write a 50K. Like, the operational cost for you of doing all of our annual reporting, let alone us executing a deal, is going to just eat that up in seconds. And so like we would never do a 50K check. I would say to a founder like that pretty much immediately, oh yeah, here's some comments. This is interesting, but like 50K, great. Maybe here's a couple of suggestions people I might talk to, but it's not going to work for us.
Yep.
Versus, and again, it's different where someone's saying, oh, we need 6 million. And I'm like, okay, we could be up to 500,000, but like, where's the rest going to come from?
We'll do questions in a second.
Yeah, sorry.
Was there anything else you wanted to ask about this? Go back.
Sweet.
Yeah. Good. We will.
Yep.
We will. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So for everyone joining us online, thank you so much. One quick shout out if you are online and you want to swing by later today. We're doing drinks. It's a new thing for us, but more importantly, at this event, we're going to give founders an opportunity to have an ask of the audience. So whether it's, would love to get some feedback on our product, or we're looking for early adopters, we're looking for surveys, people to fill out surveys or whatever it is, right? That's what this is for. Drinks are obviously great, especially when it's 30 degrees and across the road, or sorry, just up the road, the cherry tree is closed. So we're the only game in town, which is good. But if you are wanting to come by, swing by 4:30, we'll open the doors. Otherwise, thank you for joining us, and we will see you at the next deck breakdown, next lunch and learn, and we'll turn to some questions from the audience. Great, thank you.